Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. Today's review is a fantastic competition shotgun from Browning. It's a variation on a gun we have looked at on this channel before. But before we get into the review, I just want to thank everybody that's already liked and subscribed to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. If you haven't done that already and you enjoy the videos, please hit like, please hit subscribe, because that will enable us to continue bringing great content to you like this. So I mentioned right at the start, this is a gun we have looked at a variation of before. And the gun we're going to look at today is a Browning Ultra XS, but not any XS. This is a limited edition Ultra XS built specifically for the European market and in very small numbers. You know what we like to do here at Eastfield Gunroom. We like to bring you the rare, the exciting, the impossible, and this is no exception today. So here we have it, the Browning Ultra XS Pro Exquisite. Now, I'm going to revert quite a lot back to the original XS Pro videos because there are similarities, but there's also some slight differences as well, and that will enable you guys to just understand exactly what the hell is I'm going on about. So I think I've touched on this before on some of the videos on the channel, but once every year there's a massive shooting industry extravaganza over in Germany called IWA in Nuremberg, and that's where all the top manufacturers of shotguns throughout the world, or shooting related items if you like, get together to showcase their products. So what we've got here, we've got an example of one of those IWA special guns, and what I mean by that is, in this particular case, what Browning do is they build a number of prototype shotguns, you know, all weird and wacky things, and they take them to the show and they show them to the dealers, and depending on the response from the dealers depends on whether that gun goes into manufacture or not. When they do go into manufacture, they are usually in very low limited numbers, quite often 100, 200, very rarely are they any more than that. So what Browning have done here, they've taken their massively successful Ultra XS Pro, and what they've done is they've just kind of added an extra bit of elegance, extra bit of refinement to the gun. You know, let's not forget this gun goes back, its heritage is back in the 1980s with the fabulous GTI, and it continues to go from strength to strength as Browning's deep-bodied, out-and-out, super reliable clay gun. So to start with, we look at the action. Now, for those that don't know, obviously check the video out. The Ultra XS Pro is a typical competition gun. It's very plain. It's got a little bit of border engraving, but it's not in your face. It's all about what the gun does, how it performs, and how versatile it is. So it's very different here. You can see we've got some really, really nicely cut hand finished laser engraving from obviously from the Browning stable, really nicely finished. You've got some swirly stuff and some leaves, just really stands out, looks the part. Let's not forget they could have put a game bird on it, but this is a competition shotgun which you wouldn't expect to have pheasants, partridges, ducks on, whatever. We've also got nicely engraved fore-end iron and nicely engraved barrel wings. One thing I haven't said is this particular gun is from the year 2020, which is the year that obviously it was showcased at IWA, and subsequently the orders were placed by the dealers because they thought, wow, what an impressive piece of kit. And if we turn it over, the engraving doesn't stop there. It flows nicely. Like I mentioned, we've got the engraved barrel wings. We've got the tops of the action, which are nicely engraved. We've got an engraved top lever, even an engraved selector and a safety catch, and these kind of ribbons on the back of the back strap. If we close it up, we go onto the underside. Again, the engraving goes all the way through. Even the barrel lugs are engraved, the trigger guard. The rest of the trigger guard is polished, which is kind of the norm. If you look at a high-grade Browning or Miracle, very rarely will they have profuse engraving all over the trigger guard. It's usually just the bit that's obviously visible and is on display. So that kind of sums up the action. You remember we talked about this in the previous video. This is the deep-bodied Browning design. It's not like the 725. Don't get confused with that. So it's got that really satisfying clunk when you close it up. Feels very solid, very dependable, very, you know, kind of chunky in its feel, but that's what people like. I've talked about it before. These Japanese Brownings and Miracles, they are just so, I don't think rugged's the right word, and I'm going to just go with dependable, because that, if you had to sum them up in one word, that's what I'd say they were. So in terms of the barrels, again, it is in essence an XS that's been beautified. We've got engine turning. You can see by the quality engine turning on the ejector slides and on the barrel faces that the gun hasn't had a great deal of use. The barrels themselves, we have got 18.7 backboard barrels. This particular gun is 30-inch. They were also available in 32-inch. And the rib on this, whereas with a typical 525 Miracle MK38, we're used to that 10mm parallel rib with the tram line and the centre bead. With this, we go back in time. We've actually got a 13 by 10 tapered rib no centre bead, but we have got that traditional and very familiar Browning tramline. Ventilated barrels, the barrel weight isn't stamped on the guns like a lot of the European, particularly the Italian manufacturers tend to do, although quite often it's on the little proof certificate, so we'll have a look at that when we delve inside the case later on. So Invector Plus, 30-inch, ventilated rib, ventilated barrels. We've got a high-vis sight on the end with a white pushing bead. Now this is one of the areas whereby the XS Pro Exquisite differs from the standard XS Pro. The XS Pro was supplied as standard with titanium chokes. Now, in this particular gun, Browning opted for Midas chokes, which is a much heavier stainless steel system with these gold bands, as seen in the old-fashioned Ultra XS, 525 SL, that kind of stuff. And I think the only gun we reviewed with these chokes was the 525 S EWA Special. That's where I mentioned EWA Special before, well remembered, Matthew. And what that basically does, it gives a bit more weight on the front end, makes the gun a little bit heavier. My criticism of the Ultra XS Pro has always been that it can feel a little bit whippy and you do have to put the weights on, whereas with this particular gun with the heavier chokes, bit more weight on the front end, for me that's a big plus point. So what, in terms of balance, do those heavier chokes actually do to the front end of the gun? So this one, 30-inch, completely standard. We've got no barrel weights, no stock weights currently in the gun. It's naked, if you like. 8 pounds 6 ounces. How about that? Pretty much straight over the hinge pin. If you had the titanium chokes in the front end, because of the density that this woodwork, European woodwork, can sometimes give you, I would have said it would be a bit stock heavy, and then you've got to start thinking about putting weights towards the muzzle end of the shotgun. So only a little tiny difference, but those extra few ounces, for some people, they might want that extra bit of weight on the front end just to slow them down. So a nice feature. And of course, if you don't like it, you can put any Invector Plus choke in it, Teagues, Briley's, titaniums, whatever your heart desires. So to finish off with the barrels, this gun comes with a pair of Browning barrel weights, which if you've not seen the XS Pro video, obviously they're featured in that also. The good thing with that is you can put the weights wherever you wish along the center rib, whereas some barrel weights supplied by different manufacturers can only be fitted underneath the forend. So a nice bit of thought has gone into that particular barrel weight system. Okay, the trigger, adjustable, 3-position, standard Browning gear. This one comes supplied with 3, so you've got the kind of the checkered one you typically find on an MK38. You've got this thin one and also a slightly swage one for a right-handed shooter, which again is concealed in the box of goodies, what we'll have a look at shortly. The feel of this gun is Japanese, you know, it just feels good, it feels solid. I don't think rugged is the right word, because I think when I describe a gun as being rugged, it's more kind of like an old bakewell that farmers use and shove in the back of their truck. There's a lot more going on with that because you've got the Japanese build quality and you've got the Japanese reliability to boot. Moving on to the all-important woodwork. Now, when you bought one of these guns, now I'm not sure I've touched on this yet, but there was 120 of these guns only produced for the UK market. That included 30 and 32 inch. They were only available in right-hand specification. Apart from the engraving, you didn't get an upgrade on the stock. This is quite often the case with manufacturers. They will upgrade the level of engraving on a gun, but not the woodwork, but still charge a chunk more money. Take, for example, the DT11R. We've done a video on that. Check it out. The class of wood is exactly the same as you get on a standard DT11, yet it costs you a good few £1,000s more. So when I first saw one of these, I thought, yeah, I really like the engraving. This is obviously 4 years ago, back in 2020 when the gun was launched, but the wood didn't really float my boat. As I've said before, Browning tend to use European walnut from a politics point of view, whereas Miracu's tend to come with this fabulously nutty, highly figured grade 5 American walnut. And what I will say is, when Browning do pick a decent piece of European walnut, a bit like on the MK11 video, I know I keep banging through the reviews done, but we've done tons, so check them out. They're just knockout. When they get the right piece of wood, of European walnut on a Browning, they look sensational, and this is no exception. So what we've got, I mean, it almost looks like it's on fire if you look at it. You know, put it out with an extinguisher. It's the colours in this piece of wood are absolutely sensational. You've got lovely reds, oranges, nice black figurine running all the way through it, nice and strong in the head, because again, a competition gun, that's what we need. We need the strength. We're putting a lot of cartridges through it, 2-3 times a week sometimes people shoot. It needs to be durable, and we don't want any figure that's going to cause any potential cracking issues here, which we haven't got, which is happy days. Turn it over, just as fabulous. Again, you tend to find with a lot of manufacturers, they will kind of focus on one side of the stock. If it's a right-handed gun, it'll be the right-hand side of being a bit better. You might remember the AOA number 2 video we did. It was a superb piece of wood on the one side, but a bit lackluster on the other side. Whereas this, Browning got it absolutely bang on. The colour and the figure and the grain runs straight through on both sides. Double point checkering, we love double point checkering. So beaver tail forend, I'm a big fan of a beaver tail forend. They're becoming more and more popular and more the norm on competition guns, particularly here in the UK. They just offer a little bit more of a solid feel and a bit more balance, in my opinion. The checkering is of very high quality. Again, I've heard rumours before that Brownings are all hand checkered. I can't believe that for 1 second because of the time constraints of manufacture, but if it's true, it's true. And it certainly looks good on here. And also, a lot of shotgun manufacturers, again, I've said this before, because the stock and the forend doesn't come from the same bit of tree, sometimes they lose it in the forend. Now this gun, absolutely sensational. The figure runs perfectly in alignment with the stock. As with the standard XS Pro, we've got no palm swell. Not a huge fan of that. I actually prefer the older XS with the palm swell because, again, this is just my opinion. I think a competition gun should have a palm swell. Factory adjustable comb of the later spec. Now, this is just after they got rid of that god-awful one that used to have the 2 Allen screws on the side. This is much better. This is just from the back. Inflex 2 recoil pad. This is the little skinny one, so we've currently got 14 3/4 length of pull with the trigger in the middle position, but the gun was supplied with various spacers, different recoil pads, so again you can kind of fine tune it, and not forgetting the all important stock weighting system kit to complement the barrel weights. So that kind of sums up the gun before we move on to the box. But I think with this particular gun, Browning got it dead right, because what people want more and more these days is they want the functionality and the capability of a competition gun, but they also want that added extra, the bit that kind of makes their gun stand out a little more. Like I said in many videos before, engraving's not for everybody. Some people don't care for it. Let's not forget DT10's plain, DT11's plain, the new 88 even is completely plain. But for other people, you know, this might be a gun that they aspire to own. And what tends to happen with limited editions like this gun is 9 times out of 10, it will be someone that's got lured in by all the adjustability of this gun, the fact you can change the comb height, the trigger position, the barrel weight, the stock weights. But when they get into that gun and they start enjoying it, and then they see something that comes out which is even prettier, 9 times out of 10, hook, line and sinker. Moving on to the box. So no surprises here. We have got a Browning Negrini Opaline leather trimmed deluxe ABS carrier case. Try saying that when you've had a few Stella Artois on a Friday night. Okay, combination locks, open it up, take it around the world, throw it in the boot, put it in the loft, do what you want. Ultimately, I think Browning get it right with the cases. I like the brown interior, this velour kind of stuff. I think this is actually a slight upgrade on the case because I can't remember if you got the brown stuff with the XS Pro or not. It's been a while since I've actually opened a box of one. And all the goodies to boot. So we mentioned the Midas Invector Plus chokes, not dissimilar with this Exquisite edition. You get 8 like you did with the standard Ultra X Pro, and once again, several of them you're never ever going to use. So we've got extra full, light full, who cares about them? Improved modified, which is 3/4, improved cylinder quarter, half times 2, and a cylinder, which is the one you would actually use for sporting. So forget this is a sporting gun. Allen key for tightening the stock up periodically, especially with a piece of wood like that, because the chances are you will not replace that. Wang that up the back, give it a twist, make sure it's nice and safe. We talked about the different length pads. This is the 30 mil, I think, 32 mil Inflex recoil pad. Might be the 25 mil, either way it's the long one. 2 screws, change it, away you go, no problem. Let's not forget, as with all Brownings, they put a little bit more wood than other manufacturers. So if you do end up with an enormous stock, it won't look horrendous with pads and spacers on the back. Incidentally, we have got one of the original pad spacers hiding in here. Ta-da! So these are available in 7 and 11 mil, depending on what your requirement is in terms of shotgun length, length of pull, whatever you want to call it. Back into the box, we've got these VC1 protective gun socks, which is a nice touch. 2-piece, so you can put them in the cabinet and that if you wish, or if you're storing it in the case, which probably you shouldn't be, it should be a locked cabinet, then you can put it in there also. And then inside this grey box of tricks, we have got the weights for the back end of the stock, which are quite easy to fit. We've got the obligatory choke key for our Invector Plus chokes, that's the T-bar one. We've got the weights and the screws for the barrel weights, and we've got the various Allen keys and also the spare triggers that we spoke about. Not forgetting the all-important paperwork. I like to see these. This is a Belgian proof certificate, show you the gun's been proofed. And we've actually got the weight of the barrels on here, which is recorded at 1502. So for a 30-inch gun, that's probably about right. I try to work on the pretense that, you know, it's kind of 25 grams per inch when you're looking at sporting competition guns. So 1500 grams in 30 inch and 1550 in 32 is quite a good rule of thumb to go by. Obviously, what the gun's proved, yes, it's fleur-de-lis high performance steel proof. We didn't mention that. We've got all the bits and pieces of gubbins in the warranty book and the instructions, don't shoot your mate, whatever. And that is it. It is a nice little, very well put together, very well thought out, upgraded Browning version of their massively popular XS Pro. If you've got any questions about this particular gun, please contact me directly. Don't forget to check out the website. Details are on the screen. Now's the time to hit the like button. Now's the time to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already. So from me, Matthew Morgan of the Eastfield Gunroom, I'll see you next time.